The second meeting of this beautiful series of workshops. So this time, we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna see what a function is, because that's like the last component that we need to cover like the basics of the language. And then we're gonna jump into web developing. And what I wanted to reach for like today is for you guys to have like a personal website. Just a simple thing, but that is yours, and that we can start off to create our own server next time. Functions. When I think of functions, it really helps me to like relate it to like the idea that we have in math of functions, which is that basically like you plug something in and then you spit something out. For instance, in a line, we plug a number in and we get another number based on the coefficients and blah, blah, blah. That's the same idea. That's a function, and we're gonna like look at it later on the compiler and whatever. Now, with functions, once we have done functions, we're gonna have covered like JS, like JavaScript, like the basics of it, the basics of the programming language, and then from there, we're gonna get into a whole another world that implements 3 different scenarios. The first one being HTML, JavaScript, JavaScript, which is the programming language that the web is based off. And then HTML, it's not actually a language, it's a markup that we use, and that implements different tags, and that allows us to define a design, which is going to be eventually our web page. And then CSS. CSS is a framework, a language itself, actually, that defines the actual style of our web page. So we can, for instance, modify the font, or like the size of our text, or like if our image has to cover like the whole background or not. So it's more like the technical style of the web page. Now, for CSS, we're not going to worry about it, because we're going to actually use a framework that does everything for us, and that's called Bootstrap. And what it does is it takes in your raw HTML file, your raw web page, and then it makes it beautiful, meaning that it creates a design for you where everything has like a cool font, or like its size is like proper, and especially the most important thing is that it makes it responsive, meaning that when we look at a web page on an iPhone or like a normal cell phone, as opposed to like looking at it on a computer, the sizes matter, meaning that the web page that you're going to see on your computer is going to be completely different from the web page that you're going to render on your iPhone or something. And so the CSS has to take care of that, and we're going to use Bootstrap for that. Okay. So HTML is basically formed of tags. We have tags for everything. We can implement text, we can implement images, we can implement everything that would make our web page look like one of the web pages that we see online or something. So we have a bunch of them. We have a bunch of tags. So I don't even remember all of them, and so especially like for these situations, it's very useful to look up this website, which is called W3 Schools, and that has like basically the basics of every tag. So for instance, let's say that we want to implement like an image or something. Well, we're going to have a tag for that. This is the basic syntax of a tag. It starts with this little thing, and it finishes with this one. This is a very special tag because it only has a beginning but not an end. But if you look at like headings, which is like the main thing that we're going to be looking at today, they have a beginning and then they have an end. Okay, let's go back to our slides. Okay, so we're going to be using a very important framework a very important website for today, and that's called Github. And what it does, it's basically a tool that we software developers use to kind of like have a version control system, meaning that we're going to have a copy of our software. I know that sounded like Arabic or something, like very complex, but it's really not. So we're going to have like a version of our system locally, and then another version on the cloud on this website that we can update as we develop the software itself. So we're going to have a version that like users can see, and then a version that we are developing and that many people are contributing to. And that's basically what GitHub does for us. Since we cannot modify these Macs, I wanted an environment that is on the cloud so that you guys can actually change the template that I'm going to give it to you and create something that is yours. Try to kind of like follow me through the steps, because I know it may seem a little cryptic at first, but I don't know. People just get the gist of it after a while. Okay. So create an account and confirm your email. I know that many of you guys already have a GitHub account, which is really good. And then once you're in the main page, you just create a new repo, clicking the little plus over there on the top right. And that allows us to create a new container for where we're going to put code. We can put everything. We can actually put like images. We can upload whatever we want. In this case, we're going to upload the basic template of our website. Now, since we cannot download anything on our machines, just make sure to upload the code on your repo and your repo only, and not anything on like the Mac. So the moment you create the repository, make sure to write your GitHub username .github.io. That's very important because GitHub recognizes the syntax, and then it creates a website for you right away that you can fill up with HTML. And that's what we're going to do in a second. Then, once you're in the, sorry, that was very fast. Once you're in the like home page of your repo, at the bottom of the page is going to be an import code thing, and please click on that, and then you're going to be redirected to this page. So once you've created your repo and you have, used your my GitHub username .github.io syntax, scroll to the bottom of the page and then import the code. Now you're going to be redirected to this page where you can plug in a URL, and what we're going to do is take my repo over there, this link right here, copy it in there like this, and then press begin import. This allows us to get the template that I have on my GitHub and give it to you. It's a little website that I created for myself, and that we're going to analyze in a moment, right after finishing this part. So again, if you're not like familiar with any of this, don't worry, I'll walk you through the steps as you're creating it. This is optional. Sometimes when you create this thing, it doesn't allow you to make it a web page, so you have to actually like turn the option on. But I'm pretty sure that for the sake of this workshop, everything is going to work when it comes to this option. And then, hypothetically speaking, you should be able to plug into your browser your username .github.io, and you're going to see like me and my web page, which is a template that I created for you. So we're going to be looking at three things today. First of all, we're going to analyze the template, and we're going to see like how it is composed of, what it is composed of, so like the tags and what the tags mean. Then we're going to see how to integrate Bootstrap, which is basically just copying and paste a special tag, so not something like very complex. Then we're going to look at GitHub, because I wanted to like, give it a more specific approach rather than just, explaining to you what it is and how it works. And then we're going to deploy our first website. Now, I'll go a little off topic for a moment, and I just wanted to cover functions because for the things that we're going to do in the next workshops, it's going to be really important. So, we'll look at it. So there's two main ways of creating functions in JavaScript. The first one being this one, and this is like the old style. And then there's this one that is the new one. So both work, and there's not really like I don't have a preference. I usually use this one just because it's newer, but you guys can use the one that you're most comfortable with. In this case, I just created a function which I can assign to a variable, and this is very specific of JavaScript because I don't know if you guys are familiar with like other languages. For instance, in Python, as Armand was saying, like you have to create the function and then you have to implement it, but you have to call the function itself. In here, we have the ability of taking the function itself and assigning it to a variable, which is very specific of JavaScript. In this case, for instance, I created a function hello that takes into a string, and then it outputs the string, and then I am assigning a prompt to a name. This thing basically asks for a variable. Yeah. Sorry.
Is doing the exact same thing? Like, is hello assigned to a variable in this one?
So this thing is slightly different. I set an alert here just because we covered it in like the past lesson. And then, as I said in the other lesson, there's another syntax for variable, which is let. This defines a constant, and it's a modern syntax. What I've noticed so far, looking at coding in the past few days, is that people are using it more and more. So it's really good to like get used to it. Although most of the scripts that you're gonna see in JavaScript still use bar as a standard.
Is hello a variable in this code?
No, so the variable is greeting,
Okay.
but I am assigning it to a function. In here, hello is just a function that I am defining, and then to call it, I'm gonna say hello of hi or something. As opposed to, in this case, since I am defining a variable that is equal to a function, I'm just going to do a greeting of hi. So it's slightly different.
Wait, but it's the exact same syntax.
Yeah, but in here, I have a variable, and then I am assigning it to a function. And in here, I only have a function that I can call by itself.
Could you also call that greeting by something else? Like its name is greeting. Could you call it in some other way?
Well, for instance, in here, I am just console logging something. But say I would say like in the case in which I would like return a string or like a number, I could console log the function itself, and that could be. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, I was just because you were saying it's like different, but the way that you call both of these is the same, even though one is a variable and one isn't.
Right. So it's just a matter of like syntax rather than like efficiency. So they both work the same,
Okay.
but it's just that like, see how in here I have parameter, arrow, and then curly braces. Well, in here I don't have a name for the function. In here I have a name for the function. In here I am not assigning a name to the function. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean there's two different ways, but they basically work the same. So these were functions. We're gonna use them a lot when it comes to like the backend, so like the server, how the server works in our web page. Now, let's look at my website. Okay, this is my website. And as you can see, like the more I extend it, the more it changes. So the moment I'm gonna like make it look like a phone or something, it's gonna scroll down. A web page doesn't naturally do that. So we're asking Bootstrap, which is the framework that we're going to be using, to do that for us. Now, every HTML page has to start with an HTML tag. This class basically gives it a style. So the way Bootstrap works is basically assigning a name to the specific tag, and it will change it for us. So the style will change. After the HTML tag, follow two very important things. The first one is the head. The head does not get rendered on the screen, but it's basically a series of tags that initialize the web page itself. And then the body. The body is actually what we're working on. So for instance, let's say that I want to understand where this comes from. Well, this one is basically contained in a div, which is basically like a container, like an area of the web page. And then h1 is going to be the tag that defines hey. Okay. So for instance, in here, class display1 allows it to be big and a title. The syntax for this can be found on the documentation for Bootstrap. And again, there's many options. There's an infinite number of possibilities where you can style your web page. The easiest approach, in my opinion, is just to start understanding how like names are assigned and stuff, and taking from there. So, for instance, in here, in the head file, we're gonna have meta tags. Meta tags are just like tags that are used for like search engines such as Google to make our site like relevant in the search. It's a little bit more complicated than a basic like web developing approach, so I'm not going to go through it today. But then we have the title. The title is basically what I'm seeing here. So, and the cool thing about like browsers such as Chrome is that I can change this, and technically it would change, and in fact it changes. So this is the title of the web page. This is the link to something. In this case, we're linking it to the style sheet, but I deleted it because I'm not using the original template. I just made it a little simpler for you guys, so we're not going to worry about this. Whereas this one is very important. This is what allows me to use Bootstrap. If this wasn't here, it would look like this. So as you can see, it's very different. And again, I don't think that it will be responsive. Let me check. And in fact, it's not. It's just like, you know, plain text, I guess. So this is Bootstrap. So I'm going to post a link or something so that you guys can download it. I uploaded my wiki, so if you go on mrcolo.github.io, you're going to find everything that you need. I also have the QR code that you guys can scan. But this is basically it. Like, only by attaching this to the web page, we can create our style. And then comes the body. So the body, in this case, is divided in 3 different parts, as you can see. A Jumbotron is basically a container that formats it in the center. And so, for instance, in here, I am placing like the header of my web page, which says H1, H2, and HR. H1 and H2 are headers. The smaller the number, the bigger the header is going to be. So if I want to like style something properly, I'm going to start with something really big, H1, and then I'm going to increase the number so that I'm going to get something smaller. This is Francesco. HR divides the web page, so it creates a little bar for some, if you implement a specific CSS. Otherwise, it just divides it and it creates a little empty space. I use this as a divider to like, you know, define different areas. Okay. Then it comes the container. The container is, for me, in this case, the main area of the web page. And it contains, hold on. I'll make it a little bigger so that you guys can see. Okay. So in the container, the way Bootstrap works is it creates a grid where we define rows and columns. In this case, I define a row, and then in here, I'm going to have 2 columns, as you can see. So I have one column where I have my image, and then another column where I have like the infos about me. In this case, this is the tag for the image. As you can see, the syntax for like dividing the grid is using a row here, and so after using a row, if I'm using a row, then I'm going to have to think in columns. And so I have 2 columns which are defined as col small. This is another thing I'm not going to get into in this specific lesson, and it's basically how like the responsive part of the web page works. I would just stick with like colon small because it's the basic one. The image itself refers to a folder that you're going to see in the GitHub project, where I have a file called me.jpg. What I would do if I were you guys, the moment you know, you're gonna work on it by yourself, I would just upload a photo of yourself on the same folder, and I would call it me.jpg, so that it would like render exactly the same way mine does. Okay. When it comes to this part, as you can see, I define a P and then an HR, a P and an HR, a P and then an HR. So P stands for paragraph, and it's basically like after headers, I'm going to write something. So those are my paragraphs. Those are the syntax of my paragraph. In this case, lead defines a very like specific, again, style that I'm not going to get into. I would follow this template at first, and then if you're curious, Bootstrap has a bunch of like things when it comes to like styling. So for instance, in content, in components, no, layout, right here, typography. So for instance, as I was saying, like this is H1, this is H2, this is H3, and so on. for instance, in here, I am using display one. And as you can see, it's even bigger than the header itself. So it really depends on the tag that you're using. And most of the times, you just have to change the class itself because Bootstrap thinks as classes. Along with this feature of Bootstrap, we can find a bunch of components. So for instance, let's say that I want an alert, right, in my web page. I would just copy this somewhere in here, see if it works. I don't think I can modify it. Okay, I could just do this, I guess. Let's see. Okay, and as you can see, it creates an alert. So the idea is that if you don't know what to do, you just go here, you select the component that you like, and you literally copy and paste it, and then you modify it as you like. Okay, so let's go back to my web page because I'm not really done. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this. Okay. So again, like in here, I'm just defining P's and HR, and then finally, if somebody wants to work with you, then you have a reference, HTTP reference that goes to mail to my email. So the moment you're going to modify it, you can just plug in your email, and then the moment I click on this, it's going to open my email, and then somebody can like you know, send something to me. Okay. What else? Oh, right, the footer. So the footer, basically, this is just a simple div that I created. I didn't even style it like that specifically, but I said that the paragraph that I wanted to use has to be aligned in the center of the page. And then I said, okay, mate, we'll love at TechLab. And if you guys want, you can just click here, and then it would render TechLab's dashboard or something like that. Okay, so this is it. For today, I would just download the repo, which is right here. Right here. So this is the idea. I have an index.html where my file lives, and then from there, I have a source folder where I have my image. So since we cannot like modify anything on this max, you can just work on GitHub. So for instance, the approach that I would suggest to use is copy everything. Select raw so that you have the raw HTML. Copy everything, and then on repl.it, we also have an environment that supports HTML stuff. So in here, I would just do this. And then, of course, I won't have my image, but that's OK, because I'll just upload it on GitHub later. So you can run the example, and it would render something similar, I guess. It will take a while. OK, so as you can see, like I don't have my photo, but I have everything else. So for instance, let's say that my name is Mark. I'm going to say, hey, this is Mark, and then I'm going to run it again, and I'm going to start modifying it so that I'll create in mine. Feel free to edit everything here. The idea is that you should create your own first website by yourself that is different than like one of those like templates that you can find online, because this is just using Bootstrap, but it's yours. So it doesn't have anything related to any other author that you might have to cite or everything, because the policy is pretty strict when it comes to that. If you want to upload the image, you can use, you can either edit the file itself. So for instance, if my name would be Mark, I'll go on my image right here, and I would say, okay, rather than me.jpg, I'll say mark.jpg, or whatever the name of my image is. Now, the moment you're done, you can just scroll down and commit the changes. Committing means to upload a new version of your code on GitHub. And again, it's not a complicated process, but it might take a while to like understand it. So I won't cover it on this lesson too. For the image, you can just delete this one by clicking on it, and then the little trash icon, and then you can upload yours using the upload file itself. If you need anything, you can go here and you can either look at the website itself. If you guys are using the Macs and you're on Chrome, you can press Command Option I, and then it would prompt you to the HTML of it. So this is really cool because, like, let's say they want to go on Google, we could understand how they are, developing the website itself. And as you can see, it's way more complicated than mine is. But this is a good start, and it will prompt you to have a basic understanding of how to start templates for web pages. What else? Yeah, that's it. So the takeaway project for today would be to modify my template and add more Bootstrap components. So in here you have basically a bunch of options. Say I wanna, oh, and we're using Bootstrap 4, not 3. This is the most updated version, and it has many more things compared to something else, so to version 3 or whatever it is. So in components, I can have modals. For instance, modals is pretty cool. It's like a little areas of text that come up, and so you can try to implement something like this. There's carousels if you want to upload more than one image. So first slide, second slide, third slide. There's many options. Yeah, questions?